So thanks so much. So just a caveat, guys. Don't be daunted by the title of my topic. I am not even a data analyst. I am an HR practitioner, just like you. But talking about opportunities for reinvention, talking about opportunities to become essential and relevant, I think we have an opportunity here. So Heidi was talking about that, reinventing, innovating yourself. Vida was following that through. And I was very, very glad that a handsome fellow named Hans earlier also tried to put some, front act for me. So I guess we have to, reinvent ourselves and see where will this analytics take us. All right? So last week we experienced a typhoon. What's the name of the typhoon? Glenda. All right. Okay. So during those times, was it a difficult experience? It was, right? So were you more bothered by the lack of electricity or the lack of data from your mobile phone? All right, so I guess that's a good segue because I think more and more data is becoming to be the most important natural resource, close to oxygen. And that is said by Ginny Rometty, the chairman and CEO of IBM. It has become so ubiquitous, it's everywhere, that it's almost a sin not to process it. Analytics now has become not a privilege, not an initiative, but almost like a mandate. We as professionals, we are compelled to make use of the data that we have. Just look at your drawers, just look at your computer. A lot of sensitive personal information of our personnel is there. Even body mass index sometimes is there. So, so a lot of potential data mining, but we will not go there. We will not be very verbose about it. Let's just see the value of analytics, okay? Because Gartner is saying that this industry has the potential to really grow. Right now, it's more than $212 billion industry. And guess what, guys? The Philippines is getting 10% of that. Wouldn't we want to get more from that pie? In the next 5 years, it is assumed to be growing by more than $500 billion. And even 10% of $500 billion is a significant amount of money, especially for our economy. And not only that, there is a big opportunity. Right now, there is a need in 2015 to have and produce 4.4 million data analysts. Do we have that? Should we have that? Can we supply that? That is an opportunity that we should consider and discern further. Because we as HR practitioners, I believe, we have a big role to play in this schema of things. So I am here not only as an HR practitioner, I am here as a Filipino HR practitioner. Big difference from my perspective. Why? Because this next slide presents to me a very big pride for myself because we, as the Philippines, we have taken a claim in the analytics world. We are actually the first country who said that, hey world, we will be the center for global or business analytics. Wouldn't that be great? Can you give the Philippines a round of applause, please? And towards that direction, actually, CHED has paved the way in trying to influence our curriculum. Essentially, we started with, Singapore is always our close competitor here. They're always placed, second to us, but the gap is starting to be bridged, but we have to make that journey. So in Singapore, they're starting to influence the master's degrees, all right? But good for CHED and IBM, we're able to influence, okay, even at the 11th, 12th, and we're now we're soon to give out certificates of undergraduate or bachelor's degree for business analysts. And soon, hopefully, we'll be able to confer titles of data scientists in the Philippines. So very, very good prospects. And also, we already built Analytica, composed of very prominent organization that would govern analytics as an industry in the Philippines. So they know who they are, these very big conglomerates, and I would not name them one by one in fear of missing anyone. All right? But definitely, this is very promising. So as HR practitioners, do we have a role to play? Yes or no? Yes. And since you have accepted that challenge, all right, so these are the challenges of what I'm seeing now to be our role as Filipino HR practitioners. First, let's support that change. You know, Heidi was saying earlier, let's try to change the academic milieu where it will be more formatted to our needs. It's very important. Number two, let's grow the analytics within our own organization. Let's talk data. So Hans was saying, let's talk data, a language that our business would really understand. And also, Vida was saying, we have to start from within. We have to start from us. At first, I was so afraid. I actually didn't like numbers. Who would? I think more than 80% of us would, chose psychology probably or what have you, because we wanted to do away with the numbers and let the analysts, actuarials, what have you, take care of that. But guys, from a global perspective, the heads of HR of, the top consulting group, the top IT industries are now with actuarial experience. They are data scientists. They have patents in the US. So we know that we have the heart. We are very, very good in caring, showing care for our people. We are HR practitioners in the Philippines. We are very good in communications. You have just seen a lot of very good speakers here, right? But we really need to speak more of the analytics language, and that is a great opportunity. If we're talking about $520 billion, if we want a bigger pie from that. So that is my proposition this afternoon. I'm not here to talk about coefficients, regression analysis, but let us have an appreciation. Let's break the ice and see where this will take us. We have to start from somewhere, okay? And since you actually accepted the challenge, let's do an Analytics 101. Get your pen and paper. I'm just joking. So, without any verbose translation or introduction or definition, let's just talk about analytics in this simple representation. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with retention numbers, you have benchmarking from Towers Watson, you have tracking mechanism, you have everything, from talent acquisition, turnaround time, so on and so forth. But do we make good use of that? We put in all of those numbers into this funnel called analytics, whatever you might want to call it, and that will churn out what we call the concept of insight. And my wife would always tell me, whenever I would share in a group, I would say, oh, my insight is, and she would say, hush, 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 don't use insight, because insight is something valuable. That is what we're being paid for. She is, by the way, a director in Nielsen company. She was very good, she's a very good market researcher, and I think my deck now is a product of her editing as well. So thank you. So this is analytics, so to speak, in a very short analogy that would create actionable business information, though the sources might be coming from the coffers of our own 201 files or what have you. Very, very simple analytics. Let's start from the very beginning. I'm almost hearing Sound of Music. So you see there, business value and complexity. Let's start with a stage where it's the simplest, which is essentially reporting. And if you see that, you can already claim, if you're doing reporting, I'm already a business analyst because I'm doing reporting, right? So who is not sending reports to his or her boss? Everyone does, right? But that's the start of analytics. You have to start with your data, with your information. Now, it becomes a bit more complex, but with the complexity also comes the value to the business. And now you do your bit of analytics, so you monitor, you track, you do some correlation, and that's the next stage. What is actually happening and why is it happening? The most complex, I think, is what we fear most is the predictive analytics. And sometimes it's so elusive that we're not able to capture this, right? But with practice and with the right data and with the right tools, I guess it won't be too far. We'll be able to do that. So predictive analytics will be all about what can most probably happen. So because we are in HR, let's repackage it so that it'll be better, right? So parang ano lang dyan, movie, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So let's see. So yesterday it's hindsight. That's your usual reporting. Today is insight, actually. And then tomorrow will be your foresight. All right? So nothing much to talk about hindsight because it's just gathering data. It's your past data. But now comes your insight. Very simple because even simple clustering, simple percentage representation already puts in a bit of analytics into it. Right? So you can already call yourself data analyst at that point. And then comes the more complex side wherein you really have to determine coefficients and correlation. Now that is inferential analytics when you need to draw some conclusions. And then of course, going back to our predicament earlier, predictive analytics, where it's a bit more sophisticated, but with higher and greater business value. All right. So, why analytics in the first place, aside from the money, Mark? But right now, essentially, you know, what Hans was saying earlier, we really have to tie up, you know, link business metrics with people metrics. Okay? And later on, we'll see some cases about that, because essentially what we want to understand is once you have your dashboard, it would point to your business outcomes later on. Okay? What gets measured, gets tracked, gets done. That's what Peter Drucker says, and that's why we're measuring all of these stuff. Vida was saying, guys, you cannot deny now, Kim Henares is outside the door. We'll be waiting for your tax income. You are becoming very valuable, and that's why your pay is showing that. And because of that, we also need to value add. We have to be paid for our insight, not only for our interviewing skills, but business insights. And that's where we'll get it. Business performance, and it says there, 30%, actually companies that would have workforce analytics are actually more successful in bringing in more money by 30%. So actually that's your overall argument for business analytics. Okay? And just to drive home the point, these are real case scenarios where you'll see here, Starbucks, Best Buys, limited brands, they actually can correlate each and every percentage point, even at a decimal place, and put a dollar value into it. AT&T and Google actually dumped, you know, your resume if you graduated from Harvard or Yale, if you're not able to show great initiative based on their qualitative analytics. And last but not least, Oracle and IBM was able to put down their attrition from 25% to 10%, and that's what I'm telling you about, and they gained patents for this kind of a model. So I just dream a day, and I don't know if there's already a Filipino HR practitioner who has a patent, and you know that will be the day, and I hope that will be soon. So talking about measurements, what do we actually measure? Ano ba yung usually mini-measure natin as HR practitioners? What is the most common? Attrition. Attrition is one. What do you think is number one? Almost all companies pala is doing this, close to 70%. No? I was surprised. I also thought, Cecile, that it was attrition. But in 2 surveys, it was actually employee engagement. That is number one. Yeah, so when I realized, oh nga naman, yep. And also another survey would say, and attrition is number 3 there, you know, so close. And of course, performance. Again, it's engagement for this next survey. Okay, attrition is close, the second as well. So actually, we can measure a lot. We've been measuring. Are we measuring the right metrics? That's another question. What is relevant to the business? We cannot have a shotgun approach because you can derive metrics, tons and tons of metrics from the different facets of HR. But what is needed by the business? What makes business sense? What delivers business insight? And I guess we as HR leaders, we really have to sit down. Boss, ano ba talagang kailangan mong ipa-measure sa akin? Attrition ba? Ano ba? So maybe just to also drive home a point, I have a case here in my previous life wherein there is really a big challenge for us. And this is a great problem. I had this great problem of increasing promotion. Number of people to promote. That's a very good problem, right? The higher the number of promotions, the higher your rating will be. I guess that cannot be realized for most of the companies here, but that was a great problem. And so we sort of devised some sort of a measurement. How do we drive organic growth? It's organic growth, that's what they're talking about here. So how did I define organic growth? Organic growth is people, internal people who got promoted to manager level and above. Okay? And of course, you can always get from outside, but our metric here is it should not be less than 66%, meaning internally promoted. It's easier to get outside, but your marks will be higher if you pick someone from inside. But a correlation to that would be training, because you cannot promote a person if the person is not yet ready. So assessment of competency is also there. So we're also measuring that. And another correlation would be, kung talaga namang hindi ka nag-hire from outside, of course, your hiring from the university should increase, right? Because that's the way that you do it. You get from the university and then promote them from within up to the higher level. So if your university hiring increases year on year, and your promotion from within increases, so it's highly correlated, right? So those are the measurements that we have during that time. And of course, this has very powerful impact in terms of engagement because they have career progression. There are also terminologies such as career velocity. Can you imagine that? Because we're also measuring, for example, if you are a top contributor, okay, or a top performer, we also measure the time that you spend in a certain role, the number of years that you spend in a certain role. The shorter it is, the better. And the company really likes it. And they said, why is your measurement 2.2? Meaning top contributors are staying in their role for 2.2 years without being promoted. We really have to push it down further to 1.5. Okay, so a very good problem. But the problem there is, but this is a side story, not really related to analytics, but the problem there is, for you to get promoted, you should be ready. And for you to be ready, you have to undergo training, develop your competency, and so on and so forth. But you can only bring the horse to the well, but you cannot force the horse to drink from the well. So it's a totally different challenge, but at least we know the numbers. We know whether we will hit it, we know whether we will not. Okay? So I will just show to you a snapshot of the metrics that we were using during that time. So as you cannot see, and it's good because I might be placed into a sensitive situation on this. As you cannot see, you can just see about red numbers, blue numbers, and what have you. So you have there Argentina, Brazil, China, Egypt, India, Mexico, Philippines, Eastern Europe, so on and so forth. We're measuring a lot of, for example, we are also measuring diversity. It's very important for us to be diverse because it's not just about being male or female, it's about having the right diversity of thought. So Vida was saying, kailangan din merong mga young guys there, diba? For fresh perspective. But, women also think differently. Men think differently, and that creates a lot of dynamics and innovation in the boardroom. Okay, so we want that, especially at the executive level. There's a lot of university hiring as well, and top contributor attrition, and even overall attrition, and career velocity. I said the shorter the tenure, the better, and so on and so forth. Even training. So guys, we really have to invest time. I know it's really hard, but some of you are already doing it. encoding it in Excel, and it's good that Ruby has this, very, very powerful tool. But not most of us would have access to that. But we should start from somewhere, because we don't want this to be a project-based discipline. It should be a lifestyle, so that we will be able to focus more on analysis rather than gathering data, which is more painful if you don't have everything set in place. So with that, I would like to close with 2 quotations. The first one is for you as HR practitioners. And the next one would be for the final decision makers, if you are not them. I close my talk. Thank you so much.